Everybody should know Mr. Don Reber. He's going to talk about the American Legion building and give us an update on its status.
Thank you for allowing me to be here today. Before I get started, I just want to point out to you that I'm up here and I'm dressed as the commander of the Veterans of Foreign Wars, the VFW here in Eunice. But I want to explain to you the difference between the three veterans organizations that we have here in Eunice before I start talking about the American Legion building. In addition to being the commander of the VFW, I'm a life member of the American Legion as well. To be a member of the American Legion, you have to have served in a military service. That could be the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, or the Coast Guard, and be honorably discharged. And that's the qualifications to be a member of the American Legion. To be a member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars, you have to have served in a conflict overseas. So that's the difference between the two units. You can be a member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars, and you can be a member of the American Legion, as I am. Additionally, we have the disabled American veterans. The disabled American veterans is really just like his name says. There are veterans who have some sort of disability that is service related. And so that's what the difference is. In the city of Eunice and the surrounding area, if you or if anyone in your family or any of your friends are veterans, I would encourage them to join one or more of those organizations, because it helps our community and it helps veterans. So that's what the difference is. I'm here today as the commander, but I'm going to talk to you about the American Legion. I'm here as the commander of the VFW, but I'm going to talk to you about the American Legion. I want to give you the legacy of the American Legion home in Eunice. As we reach the end of the 125th year of Eunice, Louisiana, I looked back at the role of the American Legion and its contribution to the city. Eunice was chartered as a village on September 12, 1894. About the same year Donald Meisner was born. And it was incorporated as a town on June 4, 1895. The American Legion organization was founded on March 15, 1919 at the American Club in Paris near the Place de la Courte. And that was in Paris, France, where it was formed. It was formed by the members of the American Expeditionary Forces. And it was chartered on September 16, 1919 by the U.S. Congress. This time Eunice was 25 years old. The American Legion Post in Eunice was conceived by a few World War I veterans who desired to continue their association and comradeship under the principles, ideals, and purposes of the American Legion. They realized, too, that by binding themselves together and bringing other veterans into the folds of the the Veterans Organization, they could render incalculable service to their community, state, and the nation. In the beginning, the post was meager and small. There was no place for them to meet other than a barren rented hall, and the members were only sufficient in number to secure a charter. On May 17, 1926, a charter was issued to the Robert Turner Post 129 of Eunice, Louisiana. This time Eunice was 32 years old. In the beginning of 1927, the membership was increased and the work of the Legion was well on its way. And of particular significance is their baseball club was crowned as the Louisiana semi-professional champions of the state. And some of y'all might remember the support that the American Legion had for the baseball for years and years and years. The increasing number of members organized the 4th of July celebration, and on each important occasion they provided speakers from either the district or the department level to the city. Membership continued to grow, and by 1930 practically every Legionnaire throughout the state had heard of the tremendous services and activities that was rendered by the Eunice Post. This was particularly true of the American Legion Day at the Tri-Parish Fair. Some of y'all remember the Tri-Parish Fair as well. The Post had demonstrated his leadership in the community, the district, the state, the national affairs of the American Legion. In October 1929, the Depression struck and it triggered the stock market crash. The entire nation was affected in 1930, but by 1931, it really was taking its toll. The city and the parish were short of money, and it was feared that teachers would not be paid and the school year would have to be cut short. The American Legion Post, ever aware of its responsibility to the community, made a substantial donation to the Eunice Chamber of Commerce and began a cash script, which was paid to the local school teachers in lieu of cash when the funds of the St. Landry Parish School Board were exhausted. From September 1931 until December 1934, the Legion contributed more than $4,000 of community welfare and relief. Donations were made and services rendered to the community chest, the junior baseball, and relief funds. The exchanging of Louisiana Highway script, the sending of 6 people to the Charity Hospital in New Orleans, and various other community services were provided by the Legion. In 1933, it was determined it was time for the Post to build its own home. Plans were made, but it was not until 1934 that the Post purchased 3 lots at the corner of Park Avenue and 3rd Street from the Knights of Columbus. Beginning July 4th, a ceremony lasting 2 days, the cornerstone was laid for the new building. The building was completed on December 22nd, 1934. And on December 23rd, the department commander of the American Legion, the national representatives of the American Legion, and state officials from the government of Louisiana dedicated the new Legion home. Eunice was 40 years old. On September 6, 1935, the first of many public dances was held in the Post home. Admission was $1.50 a couple. The music was provided by Judge Scott and his orchestra. It's interesting because Judge Scott and his orchestra was introduced on the ticket or on the playbill as the greatest colored band in the South. In June 1936, a typhoon cooling system was added to the home. Now this is before air conditioners, guys, so you can imagine it was probably ice cubes and fans. It was called a typhoon cooling system. It was added to the home, and this brought the total investment from the American Legion for that home and what they spent to build it to $25,000. This is in the 1930s. The Legion continued its work, but on the day of infamy, which was December 7th, 1941, the Post immediately recognized its responsibilities imposed by the commencement of World War II. A branch of the United Service Organizations was housed in the Post home. A Veterans Information Center was inaugurated with the sponsorship of the American Legion, the Chamber of Commerce, and the City of Eunice. The center served and facilitated the soldiers during the war and returning veterans after the war. After World War II, the complexion of the Post somewhat changed because the new faces and the new blood came into the Post. Veterans of World War II joined, and as a result, World War II commanders and executive committees were elected. The membership reached a peak of 384 members. In the style of the predecessors, the World War II Legionnaires continued every phase of Legion work, and in addition, they outfitted one of the finest rifle squads in the state to pay tribute and homage to the returning war dead. On May 22, 1971, the American Legion donated the Post home to the City of Eunice at a value of $40,000 to be used by the city with a stipulation that the building would be returned to the American Legion should the city stop using it. The American Legion has long quit using the building for their meetings and currently borrows the Veterans of Foreign Wars post on Highway 190 for their meetings. They do not have their own home at this point for a meeting place. On September 10th, 2019, very recently, the City of Eunice voted to return the building to the American Legion. The building has served the city in many capacities and is currently houses the food bank, as somebody was talking about earlier. The building is now in need of extensive restoration if it is to remain a jewel of the city. The American Legion is not financially able to achieve this on their own, and they are currently in a process of selecting a new owner who can restore it faithfully and give honor to the World War I veterans who had the visions to build it. An honorable restoration is estimated to cost in the neighborhood of $100,000 just for the exterior and landscape. The final cost for restoration could run anywhere between $500,000 and $1,200,000, depending on what the final use of the building will be determined in. We've had suggestions from mixed use to office buildings and or condominiums. Many of the people that I've talked to within the city, and especially at LSUE, have strongly encouraged somebody to look at it on a condominium basis, because it would give the city of Eunice upscale apartments and/or condominiums that would be very, very welcome to people wanting to relocate a business into the city of Eunice. The American Legion desires to see the building restored and become the catalyst for economic development in downtown area. And we got to find the right person to do this and not put it in the hands of someone who would rather demolish it and build something new, which would be the cheapest way of doing something with that property. We've seen what happens when historical buildings are destroyed and replaced by modern buildings, such as the beautiful City Hall that was destroyed in 1982. The building deserves a respectful restoration and to keep its place in the city as a place of honor for those few World War I veterans and all the rest of the veterans who have served their community. The city is 125 years old. The American Legion building is 85 years old. God bless the city of Eunice, the American Legion building, and God bless America. And I thank you for giving me the opportunity to share this with you. I also want to give special thanks to R. Nolan Musa, who is deceased, where I got a lot of this information, and in particular, the willingness to share a lot of diligent work that was put forth for the historical information for the city of Eunice by Alma Reed and Van Reed. Thank you very much, and thank you, Rotary Club. And as you talk to any member of the American Legion, strongly encourage them to find that right person that wants to restore that building. Thank you very much.